This is Time Warner Cable's local edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Our guest today is Bob Blumenfield. He is a member of the California State Assembly. And so I want to look back to the summer and talk about I just have to call it a scandal, which was the Parks Department, after having been cut dramatically because of budget deficits, miraculously found $54 million, which was more than the amount of the cuts that required the closure of, 70 parks? The Assembly and the Senate has gotten a hold on this issue. Where do we stand today?
Well, you know, it was unexcusable and unconscionable that there were some rogue bureaucrats out there who were basically hiding this money. They weren't just hiding it these last 2 years. They were hiding it for over 12 years through the Davis administration, through the Schwarzenegger administration. It's unclear why, because they weren't spending it on anything. They were sort of keeping it as a reserve if they were cut. But at the moment that they would spend it, but the moment that they try to spend it, it pops up on the radar and they wouldn't have been able to spend it.
Is that what happened? I mean, I don't know how it got uncovered.
It got uncovered, I think, because the governor's office was asking a lot of questions and there were some new people shifting around and someone said, what is this? And then as it unraveled and the governor's office found it, they were very quick to act, and I commend them on that. They immediately fired the people responsible, and other folks ended up resigning. I ended up as the chair of the Budget Committee, I immediately held an oversight hearing, the first oversight hearing, to find out, you know, what happened, who's responsible, and what do we do about it to make sure that it doesn't happen not only in the Parks Department, but in many other departments.
So there is some good news. There is a moratorium on park closures.
There is, because the follow-on to my hearing was I put together a bill that was signed in the very last week of session that went out, that we said, okay, we have to keep the faith with the people who were stepping up and raising money to keep the parks open.
Donating.
Literally donating. In my district.
Right.
Two of the 5 parks in LA that were slated for closure were were part of my district.
Right.
Los Encinos and the Santa Susana.
Of course.
And these are folks who stepped up, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep their local park open. So I put together a bill that did several things. One, it put a 2-year moratorium on park closures. Second, to keep faith with the people who were putting that money forward, we said we're going to match dollar for dollar for each park where private folks stepped up and put money in. We're going to match it dollar for dollar and create a partnership to make those parks even stronger and better.
And we have money for that?
Well, that's what we took some of that money, of the $54 million, to use for that.
But what about the accounting side? Because it begs the question. Obviously, there were accounting shenanigans, and I've spoken with Controller John Chung, and he has said part of the problem is that departments use different accounting schemes. I mean, this is above my pay grade, but what can you tell me?
So that was the other part of my bill, is that we said from now on, the Department of Finance and the controller have to use the same, what's called GAAP, generally accounting, the same accounting principles. Right,
general accepted accounting practices.
And because you know, while the problem in the Parks Department was not specifically a problem of accounting, there's all these other special funds.
Right, there were other divisions.
There's 560 special funds in the budget, and there were a lot of discrepancies that had to do with this difference in accounting, cash versus accrual.
I mean, I understand 68 accounts showed bottom lines of at least $1 million different than what a different accounting method would have shown.
But what's really important to realize is that doesn't mean that there's money laying around.
I understand.
The only place where there was money laying around is in the Parks Department, because the governor had an audit. There's 3 different audits going on now.
Not in recycling? I thought there was some question about the recycling.
Even the recycling, when you actually back that out, and I brought the governor's people to task in a hearing and asked these questions point blank, all of those discrepancies are explainable, as opposed to the Parks Department, where the explanation was not satisfactory.
But the good news is no park closures.
No park closures because of the bill I put forward.
Okay, his name is Bob Blumenfield, member of the California State Assembly. I'm Brad Pomerance. Thanks for watching Time Warner Cable's local edition.